Studio Ghibli made a video game? Well, kind of. It was called Ni no Kuni. Released for the PlayStation 3 in 2013 here in the West, Ni no Kuni was a collaboration between two titans in the Japanese creative industry. First, video game company Level-5, developers of games such as the Professor Layton series, the Yokai Watch games, and Dragon Quest IX. And then you had Studio Ghibli, Japanese film animation titans, creators of such films as My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, Grave of the Fireflies, and many others. Ni no Kuni itself was released to positive reception from critics and moderately good sales considering of 1.1 million units sold worldwide after about a year into its life, placing it as one of the top 35 best-selling PlayStation 3 games of all time. It did well enough to get a sequel for the PlayStation 4 and PC in 2018, a remaster of the PS3 game for PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch in 2019, and apparently an MMO for mobile phones that was released in 2021 that I didn't even know existed, and apparently is still getting updates to this day. But despite this apparent surface-level success of sales and multiple projects in the works, not a whole lot of people here in the West seem to know about Ni no Kuni as a whole. It seems to exist as a niche game for only fans who have really looked for games of this nature. Heck, as far as I can tell, even though Ni no Kuni 2 got good reviews like its predecessor, it didn't seem to reach the same sales heights as the original. All sources I can find say that the game didn't even ship 1 million units worldwide. And when I found that out, I thought that was kind of strange. Given the worldwide appeal of Studio Ghibli, especially here in the States, why was this game not a bigger hit? You can barely go into any Hot Topic or any store here in the States that specializes in Japanese pop culture and not see a My Neighbor Totoro backpack, t-shirt, or plushie on prominent display. So given that general interest and the marketability of Studio Ghibli here in the States, why was this game not a bigger hit akin to other collaborations of popular companies like Kingdom Hearts or Super Smash Bros? I do have a few theories as to why this might be. For starters, one of the biggest issues lies with the fact that when this game launched, it was only ever on one console at a time. Most folks might not know this. I didn't even know this until I started research for this project, but Ni no Kuni was originally a Nintendo DS Japanese exclusive game released in 2010. It was being developed alongside the PlayStation 3 version, which was released in Japan about a year later. And even then, the console version was only ever released on the PlayStation 3 at the time. The PlayStation 3 had overtaken the Xbox 360 in terms of console sales worldwide after a poor start, but it is arguable that the Xbox 360 was the more popular console amongst gamers during that generation, especially here in the West. Most big-name games nowadays are either multi-platform or have enough history and fan support that even though they are on one system, they are considered to be essential games to own despite the exclusivity. Think Legend of Zelda or Halo. But Ni no Kuni was a brand new IP, and the marketing for this game seemed to be minimal at best. At least here in the United States. A handful of trailers here and there, and only a few of them seem to briefly mention that Studio Ghibli helped with the animations and design of the game. In tandem with this, a general fan might have had a harder time trying to find out more information about this game, because even to this day, when I go to Google or especially on YouTube and type in the words Ni no Kuni, the system thinks I'm just typing in gibberish and doesn't give me any recommendations until I actively search. Once I do put in the search information, it picks up Ni no Kuni videos just fine, but the fact that there's no real recommendations for Ni no Kuni reviews, Ni no Kuni gameplay, Ni no Kuni explained, or anything like that in the normal drop-down recommendations you get on YouTube searches, I think that hurt the opportunity to broaden the audience or general awareness of this game online to the general fan. And if you do search for Ni no Kuni on YouTube, there aren't a whole lot of trailers that explain what the game is to folks here in the West. Most of the trailers I could find were in Japanese, and the trailers that were in English were mostly the most recent trailers from Xbox saying, hey, Ni no Kuni is finally coming to our platform. I actually saw the fruits of this lack of marketing firsthand a few weeks ago. I was hanging out at a barcade with a friend and I was talking about some of my favorite games, and I brought up Ni no Kuni. He asked what is that, and I told him about it, and he was shocked. He is a big Studio Ghibli fan, but he did not even know that they helped make a video game. And keep in mind, this is almost 10 years after the release of the original, and only about 4 years removed from the remaster, and he didn't even know that it existed, which really is a powerful statement as to the poor marketing of this game here in the States. Another big hurdle is that this game is a JRPG. JRPGs have always seemed to be hit or miss in terms of popularity here in the West. Now that might seem like a stretch given how many times we've gotten Final Fantasy games and Kingdom Hearts and Dragon Quest and other games like Persona and what have you here in the West, but keep in mind, it took a literal petition to convince Nintendo to release games like Xenoblade Chronicles here in the States. And even though, like I mentioned, games like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest do decent numbers here in the States, for the most part they aren't commercial juggernauts like they are in Japan. Normally you look at games like Call of Duty or some of the different sports games that are commercial juggernauts for video games here in America. And compared to those more marketable games in America, JRPGs have a preconception of being a massive time sink, which can be a tough sell to more general gamers. Ni no Kuni doesn't require as much time to complete as, say, a traditional Final Fantasy or a Dragon Quest game, but that still is a bit of a tough sell to some people to say you're gonna have to sink 50 or 60 hours of gameplay in just to finish the main story. Now, both of those previous points are big factors as to why this wasn't a big success, but there is one more element that I think is the reason why this game was not a massive success. This game was a collaboration with Studio Ghibli as a whole, not specifically Hayao Miyazaki. Now before people start jumping down my throat, Studio Ghibli has made plenty of amazing movies without Miyazaki as a director. Grave of the Fireflies, Princess Kaguya, several others that I could name. But if you look at the worldwide box office numbers of Studio Ghibli films, 4 of their top 5 highest grossing films of all time are Miyazaki movies. And the majority of merchandise that is sold here in the West, based off Studio Ghibli properties, are specifically from Miyazaki movies. Much like when studios here in Hollywood try to get famous people to be lead actors or voice actors for the sake of name recognition to get general audiences to go to the movie theater, Miyazaki is that name recognition for audiences here in the West. General audiences don't watch Ghibli movies, they watch Miyazaki movies. Even though groups like Fathom and others will have Ghibli summer movie events in theaters across the country, most if not all of the movies in that lineup are Miyazaki movies, and that's a big part of marketing. Miyazaki will always generate an audience because of his previous works, and while Studio Ghibli will have some elements of that success based on their name recognition, without Miyazaki as a director, they might not generate as much money worldwide. And I think that's a big reason why this game wasn't more popular than it currently is, or more well known. It has Studio Ghibli attached to it, but just Studio Ghibli, the animation studio, not specifically Hayao Miyazaki, the star director. And I think that's an absolute shame, because Ni no Kuni is absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. It's got great art design obviously, a solid story, great action RPG gameplay, and it's just an all-around great game, honestly. The remaster is available on most modern consoles currently, and if you haven't even given this game a try, I highly recommend it. It is a bit of a time sink like with most JRPGs, but one that I think you'll enjoy from start to finish. I just hope that perhaps through my video, more people will find this game, give it an opportunity, and maybe Ni no Kuni will get some more games or some more exposure in the future. And that's about it. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe I'll make some more videos akin to this talking about some of my other interests. I've also done a few Let's Plays on this channel, if you enjoy those, and if enough people watch them, maybe I'll pick them back up again. Or maybe I'll try my hand at live streaming, who knows. But that's it for now. This has been CSF Watson, thank you for watching, and may your heart be your guiding key.